Please finish part 1 before watching this video. Thank you. Pretty much any Rick and Morty alien, this series is full of bizarre creatures and otherworldly characters. Being a series where going through the universe is a big part of the show after all, while trying to balance a family life, it's definitely inevitable we'd come across a lot of bizarre beings. The variety of characters our main protagonists meet range from hilarious to threatening and even lovable. The series wouldn't be the same without the creatures from across the universe. Also, the best episodes of Rick and Morty usually take place in or around these universes or aliens, whether it be stuck inside multiple simulations within a dream, a creature who doesn't have a purpose outside of being useful, or even just watching trans-dimensional cable. The reason I decided not to choose anyone in particular because none of them are part of the main cast, and it's just too hard to pick a favorite, you know? Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama. Sure, he's a land lobster, a lobster being a creature from Earth, but he's considered an extraterrestrial since he's from another planet, though still related to Earth crustaceans. Anyways, despite his rather odd character design, which would probably be nightmare-inducing in real life, he's actually one of, if not the nicest character in the series due to his polite, yet also very bizarre mannerisms, some of which show he still has that deep-sea instinct inside of him. He does live in the walrus tank after all. He's also a screw-up and isn't exactly given the most respect by others in his crew, but he's a lovable guy who isn't good at any form of work, i.e. he wanted to be a comedian but his jokes didn't land. Especially his doctor job, but we also can't help but feel bad for him since he's seen as a screw-up by other members in the crew, as well as the fact that he's socially awkward and just overall has a lot of bad luck. But don't let that fool you. He can be a badass when the time calls for it, since he's a race of warrior species after all. I know there's a lot of other aliens featured in the series, but he's definitely the most prominent one, and the only member of the Planet Express crew to be fully alien. So yeah, he's also really quotable and memeable as well. Marvin the Martian from the Looney Tunes franchise. Yes, possibly one of the earliest aliens to appear in Western animation, this is a character who's one of the highlights anytime he's involved. Although he usually wants to blow up Earth for a dumb reason, including it just being in the way, it's hard not to love this guy. He's got this weird comic edge to him with his villainous banter with other characters, his somewhat laid-back personality despite his goals, and how he straight up leads an army and is the Empire in Duck Dodgers makes him a fun character overall. I also like this character design. Considering the year he made his debut in, you'd think they'd go with the typical gray alien designs so often associated with extraterrestrial beings. But instead, they went with an interesting look that resembles a space Spartan with some elements of some sort of Shadow Man. I also find it to be a highlight whenever he's forced to work with one of the heroes. Just a great character overall. The 3 main crystal gems from Steven Universe. I know the fanbase can be cringe, but the show itself is good. Namely Amethyst, Garnet, and Pearl. Steven is also part gem, but he's also part human, so I won't really talk about him. While they look somewhat human aside from being off-colored and having gems in them, they classify as an alien species and are treated as such with their biology. Anyways, the main 3 are some of the best characters in the show, with how their different personalities bounce off one another, their realistic personal life struggles mixed in with otherworldly traits, how they try to be a good influence for Steven, and their adventures they go on. I would talk more about them, I really would, but discussing what makes each of these 3 great characters might take up too much time. But I hope I explain why they work as a trio well. Before we get to my number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions. The visitors from South Park, cow-loving, probe-happy aliens hanging among the town. They don't get used much, but I do like these guys. The Dammit aliens from Robot Chicken. They definitely star in some of the funniest skits in the show. The main character from Wander Over Yonder. I haven't seen the show, but it does look like something I would have enjoyed, especially if it came out when I was a kid. Anyways, on to number 1. I'll admit, I did have a hard time picking which order to put these characters in, but I had a feeling I knew who number 1 would be. Zim from Invader Zim. One of the most entertaining Nickelodeon protagonists ever, this little green dude has a lot of technology at his fingertips, which leads to a ton of exciting scenarios, a big ego despite his incompetence, and how he is determined to the end, even if his mission isn't really what he thinks it is. I also give credit to his design that somehow looks both familiar and original at the same time. Anyways, it's surprisingly easy to kind of root for him, since he just wants to prove he's a worthy invader, and he's able to take on bigger roles than just a fry cook like his old job. His delightful voice work, his odd friendship with his defective robot assistant Gur, and how he works as both a comedic and sometimes rare instances threatening, the Dark Harvest episode for example, makes him my number one choice. And that was my top 10 cartoon aliens. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. But before I go, I'm gonna ask you a little question. Look at this video, and look at my other top 10 videos. Would you prefer it if I do it in one part, like I did my other videos? Or would you prefer it I split it into two parts like this? Please let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, check out some of my other top 10 videos, and let me know which you prefer. Split into two parts, or just one big long video.